been, what is happening right now, where things are going. It's really, I believe, the master blueprint of the end times, and even the Bible. As you get to the end, it's ultimately goes to forever, but it's really encompasses everything, and it's showing how God, even the rise of America and what could be the fall of America, all is part of this mystery of the Jubilee mystery, which is linked to the Jubilee. And so on one hand, we're seeing this 50-year mystery where gigantic prophetic events happen according to God's time clock. We're also seeing this mystery of these amazing appointed words. When God has it appointed in the scrolls of the Jewish people, they're read at appointed times, appointed days and of the year, and the events take place when they're read again and again and again. And also we're going to watch more and more exact dates to where God has timed things out. So just the amazingness of God. And so that is it. It is revealed there's a story around it, like with a harbinger, but it's massive. It's really a delivery system to deliver the mysteries, And so there are 7 doors in this, and every door opens up to like 7 or 8 major mysteries. We're touching on maybe 2 or 3 because there's so much. I don't want to. So we are right now up to the 3rd door. Now we're going to open the 3rd door, and we've seen so far. We've watched how God has, on these appointed years, we saw 1867, the first Jubilee of Restoration, where all these kind of mysterious things start happening in the world with the visit of the man called the stranger. And that begins the restoration of Israel, really the end times as we know it. And so it begins there, plants the seeds, and then the next Jubilee, count 50 years, comes in 1917, and we have an explosion of events. We have a world where the whole world is shaken, yet it's going to lead to the fall of empires and the rise of empires and the giving of the land, the next restoration of the Jewish people, the giving of the land to the Jewish people. Now remember, everyone who's a believer here, Jesus cannot come back. Messiah cannot come back until the Jewish people come back to the land of Israel and come back to the city of Jerusalem. Has to all happen. So he's behind. By the way, he's behind all this. Without you, it said. Remember what it said when he's on the Mount of Olives. They said, "Is it at this time you will restore the kingdom to Israel?" Right? And he didn't say, "Oh no, God's finished with Israel now. It's just replaced." No, he said, "It's not for you to know the time." In other words, it said, is that at this time, you, Jesus, Yeshua, you, Messiah, will restore the kingdom of Israel. It's him doing it. It's not only the God of Israel, which is also him. It's Jesus who is restoring Israel. It's his hand.
And this is why the Holocaust took place. Hitler, this was demonic.
Yes.
You know it was demonic.
Yes.
To kill 10 million Jews or more, and 10 million Christians, they say, too. I don't know. But millions, these are diabolical acts by crazy, demon-possessed. Can I say that?
The whole nation, not everybody, but a nation as a whole became demon-possessed.
So why, you tell me, why does Satan hate the Jews so much? I mean, it's obvious, but I want to say it. But I want you to say it.
Yeah.
And the Holocaust was beyond human reasoning.
Yes.
And so you're dealing with all of this in this book.
Yes. Yeah. For instance, people don't know. We won't get into a whole lot, but with, for instance, the Nazi Party was founded by an occult organization. An occult organization launched this party. Now, why? Because number one, you have God, and listen. If we were Martians, we came to this world, and we looked, and we saw this thing. It would hit us immediately. Say, wait a minute, what's going on with the Jewish people? There's something different about this people. That why does the world hate them so much? There's something focused. Why? Because number one, it was God who brought the Jewish people into the world. It's nothing else. It's God who did it. Not one Jewish person would be in the world today if it wasn't for God. They wouldn't exist. We wouldn't exist if Sarah didn't have a miraculous birth and this baby Isaac. So every Jewish person in the world is a miracle of God's word, saying, saying God's word is true. God brought the Jewish people into the world, and that means the enemy, the Bible says there's a force of darkness that opposes everything that God does. So the enemy is going to be especially against the Jewish people.
Yes.
That's why no natural explanation will ever explain anti-Semitism or Hitler, because it's not natural, it's supernatural. It's not
It's demon devil.
It is behind it.
It wants to stop the Jew from going home. Jesus can't come back because he doesn't lie if the Jews don't go home.
Yes.
And they're in their homeland, and now they're doing everything. The demons are doing everything to get them out of their homeland right now.
Yeah. Well, think about it. And the oracle is about God's bringing them home.
Oh my!
And so the enemy is totally against it, and therefore he's against their existence, because that would make God a liar. Because God said, no matter what happens, as long as the sun and I'm paraphrasing, the stars and the sun and the moon are in there, you are not going to disappear from me. So God said it would make God a liar. So he's been trying to destroy them for 2,000 years, and yet notice something: he can't do it, no matter what. So here you got you got this people who are the most attacked people in the history of mankind, and they are the weakest people. They don't have an army. They don't have a president. They're scattered all over the earth, and yet they end up outlasting all the great empires that tried to destroy them. Why? Not because of them, because the God of Israel lives.
Amen.
The God of Israel is real.
Yes,
the God of the Bible is real.
Yeah.
So they try to destroy him. But number two, because they brought Jesus into the world. The enemy has never forgiven them for that. So he's trying to wipe them out for that. Remember, the dragon hated the woman. Yes. She brought the man into the world, the man-child in the world. So they hate. And number three, because if he can wipe them out, Messiah can't come back. If he can wipe them out, he stops all the prophecies of God. So that's why, and you brought something very profound, that's why it was just at that time when God is about to bring Israel back into the world, all hell breaks loose. The world gets all the satanic fury of this man, Adolf Hitler, and the Nazis and Europe. It rises up, the most satanic movement we've ever seen. And what is Hitler obsessed with? I have to destroy the Jewish people no matter what. More than even winning the war, he wanted to destroy the Jewish people. Why? It wasn't him. It's because he's speaking from the enemy. The enemy. Why? You look at anti-Semitism. You look at why do they always say the Jews are trying to take over the world? There's like this always conspiracy. They're trying. Why? It doesn't make any sense. Because that's what the enemy is afraid of. The enemy knows that when Israel rules under Messiah Jesus, he's finished. That's why he's always saying that. That's why the anti-Semites are always saying that. So that makes perfect sense. I mean, look at the timing of this. Just as Israel's about to come true, all those prophecies are about to be fulfilled, all hell breaks loose to stop it. Because if he can wipe out the Jewish people, he wipes out Israel. It never happens. But instead, the enemy has his moment, but instead God causes those events to bring Israel into existence. If it wasn't for all that, it's doubtful that the nations would have voted for Israel to come back into the world. Listen, I have a personal stake in this because my father was born under Hitler. He grew up in Germany under Hitler. And so he was one of those who Hitler was trying to destroy.
Oh my.
If he had done that, I wouldn't exist. Because Hitler was trying to. And so as a child, his parents sent him out on a train out of Germany, and by mirror he ended up in England, ended up on a boat to Canada, was put in prison as a war criminal. They all thought they were all war criminals. They were refugees. Ended up getting out, became a scientist, met my mother. But if Hitler had, had won, Israel wouldn't exist. I wouldn't exist. No Jewish person would exist. So this is it. But you can't stop God. So amazing. The weakest nation in the world ends up being the strongest, because the God of Israel, his hand is with them. He will not let them be destroyed. And that same hand is with you. If you're a child of God, it's with you. Yep. So remember that. The enemy will rage against you. Anything, any person, any nation, any person, any ministry that is serving God, the enemy's going to go crazy against it. All hell. When I first came here, when I first came here, there was we didn't have a building because as the harbinger was released, a flood came into the building and wiped out everything. The enemy comes in like a flood, but the Lord raises up a standard. So the enemy is always going to come against it, but God will never let you lose. You just have to keep standing.
Yeah.
So yes, absolutely, that's where we are. The enemy goes crazy, yet God is now about to do the most prophetic event in the world that he has ever done in modern times, which is linked to the coming of Messiah, the rebirth of Israel.
Why is society wanting another Holocaust? Why do so many, especially on the left, want to destroy Jews now? And they've already, if you want the Jews punished, the Holocaust punished the Jews like no other people probably in history. But yet today, we have people in America that want another Jewish Holocaust.
Well, you know, this thing that's been in the news, this movement of politicians on the left, they are the reason why that the Prime Minister of Israel didn't want them in. It's because they basically have a principle that you can criticize Israel all you like. They're basically, that's about one of the few Middle Eastern countries that you can go and criticize. You can't go to the other ones.
That's right.
You can criticize. But if you're working against the existence of Israel, we're not going to help you. And so what this is they're supporting what's called the BDS movement, which is we want to boycott Israel basically out of existence. We want Israel to be out of existence. So we're saying we're not going to bless you for that. We're not going to help you in that. And so what happens? The media goes crazy to condemn President Trump and Netanyahu for saying, listen, if you're trying to destroy us, we are not going to help you by coming into our land.
Now, you said Trump. When he built the embassy in Jerusalem, that's in this book.
That's totally part of prophecy. Totally part of prophecy.
And we'll get there eventually, right? In the next few days?
If we don't get it in these days, we'll get it in the second one. But we'll touch on it. That is definitely linked. That is linked to an ancient king specifically who spoke about a house in Jerusalem. It had to be, and the timing was
the timing
and the exact thing.
It's
Donald Trump
so amazing, people, that if you don't believe God has put his hand upon our president, there's nothing else I could do.
And it's not that Donald Trump is reading Leviticus.
No.
And it's reading the Hebrew, but he's fulfilling it, regardless, just like Truman did. He's fulfilling. And, we mentioned on one of the shows, but he is following this ancient mystery without knowing it, he knows some of it, but he's following it down. It's determining the exact dates when he does things. When I was in the middle of writing, or I started writing or getting the things for the Oracle, before the embassy was dedicated. And I'm looking at the mystery, and it says, and this is what I'm looking at the mystery and I said, well, according to the mystery, it would pinpoint this date for the embassy to be dedicated, and it was dedicated on that date.
Oh my God.
That was before the book was finished. I said that, and it's exactly on that date, because that's part of the mystery.
It's all so amazing, people. And we've talked about Truman. He had stood up for Israel.
Yeah, Truman had a strong sense of the Jewish people. His favorite psalm, interesting, was the psalm that says, "By the waters of Babylon, where the Jewish people are in exile, longing to come home," which was the time of Cyrus. So that was his favorite psalm, and so he grew up having a strong sense for the Jewish people. His wife, not so much. His wife didn't like Jewish people, but didn't let them in the house. But Truman loved the Jewish people, and he actually had his best friend was a Jewish person. God put them together.
The warfare
early on in war
of doing good.
In the First World War, we're looking at the Jubilee in 1917, and in that war is Harry Truman as a soldier with his Jewish friend, and they end up going into business together. They end up going bankrupt together. He never forgot his Jewish friend, and years later, when Israel had to come back into the world according to the hand of God, God used that old Jewish friend to cause Truman to open his heart to go against his entire State Department, which was sabotaging him because they didn't want Israel to come back into existence. Truman, against the entire thing, did it, but God used everything in his life, even going back to 1917. In fact, here's another thing I wasn't going to get into, but that in 1917, if you count from 1917 to the next Jubilee, we're not going to go into that right now, but if you get the exact middle point, the day that marks the middle of the Jubilee cycle, on that day, Harry Truman proclaims that he joins in a celebration of Israel and a celebration of the Balfour Declaration, 1917 Jubilee, and declaring that Israel should come back into the world. This is when he's a senator, before he's a president. Wow. So God will elevate him just at the exact moment when Israel's going to come back into the world. And he's going to do, not just recognize Israel, he's going to do several things that people don't know, and it's going to be at the exact biblical days that are appointed.
But on page 122 of your book, which is back into it, and we're talking about Truman again, but in the spring of 1949, it says in the book, and you can turn there if you'd like to.
Oh, my gosh, honey.
A year after Israel's birth, Israel's first chief rabbi came to America to visit the president. The rabbi told the president that when he was still in his mother's womb, the Lord had called him to be the instrument to bring about the rebirth of Israel after 2,000 years.
Yes.
And the rabbi told him that Cyrus, that he was a Cyrus.
Yeah, he read to him from Cyrus. He read to him in the Bible the Declaration of Cyrus.
And then this is something that's so shocking, and I just beg you to somebody needs to, because really get the book. Just get the book. We're going to try to, he's going to be with me for the rest of the week, so don't worry. We're going to keep teaching all week long. But the president was so overcome, this is Truman, with emotion at the rabbi's words, that tears began welling up in his eyes and streaming down his cheek. You're right.
Yes.
And I felt like I was there.
An eyewitness described it.
So years after his encounter with the rabbi, Truman was attending a gathering in New York City.
Before you say that, let me. No, it's okay.
You can say it.
No,
you finish it.
It goes with that. Cyrus, King Cyrus would sign his monuments, the engravings, with he always put I am Cyrus. I am Cyrus. After he was attending an event, and he said the words. He said, "Harry Truman, I am Cyrus."
Oh.
Is that powerful?
I am Cyrus.
It's in the book.
That's history. History you've never read, probably.
Yeah.
It's so powerful.
And that
this is what you brought out in this book.
And, yeah.
Time after time after time. And I'm so overwhelmed by it. But I want you to go on
and to say also, because the things that we can't do everything in this time, but with Truman, again, his whole life, as I looked at his life, it was following the exact, even the years of Cyrus, of when he did this at this, everything was Cyrus, and he didn't know it until the end. But Isaiah, I remember. Here's the other thing: Isaiah is the one who wrote in Isaiah 45, Cyrus, even though you don't know me, says the Lord, I've used you. And so God tells Cyrus at the end. Well, so with each Cyrus, God has a man to tell the Cyrus that he's Cyrus, and so after they've done it, after they've done what they had to do before they knew it, so just as God used Isaiah, God used that rabbi, the chief rabbi of Israel, to say it, and not that the rabbi knew the whole thing either, but he's used, and with Trump, God has used as well. So
somebody from Israel,
as God, yes,
told him,
that the link of him and Cyrus, after they fulfilled it, without knowing what they were doing. Right. So that's the pattern of Cyrus. They fulfilled the will of God without knowing what they're doing, and then they are told afterwards, this is what you were, the instrument that God used.
And as you read all these stories, their birth, the timing is supernatural.
Yes,
so supernatural.
Everything is.
So we're opening the third door.
We're opening the third door.
Give me some highlights.
We're cracking a little door. Well, the third door, you have the mystery of the dreamer, the mystery of the resurrection, the day of the scrolls, the man who was, the Persian, the mystery behind the American president, the Jubilean Code, the appointed word, appointed on linked to Israel. So much in this. We'll touch on a few things, if that's okay.
Yes, let's do it.
All right, let's go. Okay, beginning with a Jewish boy. A Jewish boy is born in the 19th century still, and he's raised, he's secular, he's not very religious, and he's a playwright or a journalist. And one day he's in Paris, and he sees the people in Paris saying death to the Jews, death to the Jews. And all of a sudden he realizes that the Jewish people they won't blend into the nations. They have to go home to Israel. Now, he wasn't religious. He wasn't doing it. He wasn't looking at prophecies. He just got this thing. And the very place and year where he got that, when his life changed, was the same city and time when he met the stranger, Mark Twain. At the same moment that his life is going to, the man is Theodor Herzl. Herzl is the man who is the ultimate visionary of Israel. You go to Israel, you'll see his image all over. There's his image. Man with a long, dark beard. And all of a sudden, he became obsessed with this vision to go around the world. He wrote a book saying the Jewish nation, went around the Europe, go to all the Jewish people saying, come home, come home, come home. Now, this is even the hand of God, because, God says in Jeremiah, it says, Jeremiah 16, therefore, the days are coming when it will no longer be said, the Lord who lives, who brought up the children of Israel out of Egypt, but the Lord who lives, who brought the children of Israel out of the land of the north, Europe, and Soviet Union, all that, and from all nations. Well, that's now. And it says, I will send for many fishers for them, and they will fish for them, and then I will send for hunters, they will hunt for them. Well, what's a fisher do? A fisher says, come back, draws in. A fisher draws in. Those were the Zionists. That was Herzl. Herzl founded Zionism. What does Zionism? Simply means return to Zion. So the Jewish people, so therefore it starts Zionism, which is the fisher, return. So he's saying, return, come home. But most of them don't come home. And you know what's coming is going to be the Holocaust. It would have saved many of them. But before the Holocaust comes, God gives them a home. God gives them a refuge for any to come home. So God is even preparing the answer before it happens. So then it says, I will send for hunters. God then uses the Hitler and all that. He's against them, but just like he used the Assyrians, that those things bring about the birth of Israel at the same time. And most people who come back to Israel at that time are coming back to get away from those who are anti-Semitic. So you have all that happening in between this period. Herzl is the chief fisherman. He's the one who founds Zionism. Interesting, and I don't know if I put this in the book or not, but interesting, because where this all happened, he was living in Austria when this change came on his life. He's the chief fisherman. Mm-hmm. Another person went to Austria years later, and a change came on his life, but it was satanic, and he became a rabid anti-Semite in Austria. He became the chief hunter. It was Adolf Hitler. It was in the same place. That happens. But now remember something. We've said it, but Israel has to come back so someone else can come back, so that Messiah can come back home, to his his people. He said it. I will not come back until you, Jewish people, say, blessed is he. Where? In Israel. Where? Specifically in Jerusalem. So it's got to happen. You're praying for the second coming of Messiah. This has got to happen. God uses even people who don't know him, like Theodor Herzl. Okay, but now, Herzl had a secret. First of all, he lives for about 8 years after this vision. He dies in 1904, 44 years old. He was exhausted. Young man, dies. He never sees it happen, but he sets it in motion. Now, he had a secret that only before he died, he told somebody. And the secret was, when he was a boy, he had a dream. And in the dream, he said he saw the Messiah. And the Messiah said, this child is appointed, I have appointed this one, to prepare the way for my coming, to tell my people I am coming soon, says the Messiah. So the Messiah, and here we know, what did the disciples say to Jesus? When will you restore the kingdom of Israel?
Yeah.
Jesus coming. So here's the secret. So therefore, now, Herzl gathers together this, let me throw this in. He's traveling Europe, and he's telling all the Jews, you got to come back, you got to come back. And most of them don't. But there's a boy who sees him and sees him almost like, they say, wow, who is this man? And this little boy says, I'm going back to Israel. For the little boy, Jewish, the boy becomes David Ben-Gurion, who becomes the first prime minister of Israel. It's because he saw Theodor Herzl visited his hometown.
Incredible.
Okay, so God's putting all the pieces together. So Herzl gathers together Jewish people for the first Zionist Congress. Now, they all come together to found the nation of Israel. Now, Israel doesn't exist. It's not going to exist for some time. It's all a dream. It's all by faith. They have nothing. But they say, let's come together as if we had a nation. So they come together, and they determine Israel's coming back into the world. They found, even though, listen, they don't even have the land. The land is still under the Ottoman Turks when they come together under the Muslim power. So they're together. They come up with a flag, no nation. Everything's backwards with Israel. They come up with a flag with no nation. They come up with a national anthem, no nation. Herzl, after this gathering, writes words in his diary. He writes down a prophecy. And he writes down, he says, today, or I have just here now in this Congress, we have founded Israel. Now, or he doesn't say the word, because actually they don't know the name. He says the Jewish nation. He says, the whole world, if I said that today, they're going to laugh at me. But he says, he gives a time period. He says, in his final time period, he says, but in 50 years' time, the whole world will know it. Jubilee. 50 years' time, the time of Jubilee, they will all know it. Okay, so here's the question. When did he say it? He wrote it, this prophecy down in 1897. Add 50 years comes to 1947, the year that Israel is voted back into the world. Exactly. As he said, the whole world knows it for the first time in 2,000 years.
Wow.
And so this is another Jubilee right now happening. But I looked even deeper. I mean, let me look at this, because it's like the Lord says, look, you got to look here. I looked at the document, the plan that brought Israel back into the world, that the UN voted on, the United Nations, the resolution, and I looked, and there's a date on it. It says September 3rd. That's when it was received. That's when it's dated, September 3rd. I go back to Herzl, and I look, the prophecy was dated September 3rd.
Oh, man.
It came back exactly 50 years, one Jubilee to the day.
Oh,
Wow.
To the day.
amazing.
Wow.
God's so amazing.
Yeah, this is on every page. There's something
Every
like
page.
this.
Yes.
It proves without a shadow of a doubt what God has done.
Yeah. So America, and again, listen, this affects our home, because all of our lives have been affected by the fact that America is the superpower it has been. But it's the superpower it has been because of the mystery of God. It had to be. It had to rise just at this moment, because England was against now Israel coming back. But America is risen up, and this is where everything comes together. Harry Truman, at the moment, all together for the date, which is May 14th, 1948. Israel is resurrected back into the world after 2,000 years, as all prophecy said, as Messiah said it had to be. It comes back into the world. Now, here's the question. Is there a prophecy in the Bible that speaks about the exact day of Israel coming back into the world? Well, or it speaks about that day when it comes back. Well, it's found in, there's possibly two that speak about the day, but one is in Amos. In Amos, it says this. Listen, Amos 9:11. Amos. In that day, I will raise up the fallen tabernacle of David, which I will raise it up, and I will repair its damages. I will raise up its ruins. I will rebuild it as in days of old, as in ancient times. I will bring back my people from their exile. They will build the waste cities. They will inhabit them. They will plant vineyards. They will drink wine from them. They will make gardens and eat fruit from them, that they may possess the remnant of Edom. And it says, I will plant them, and no one will take them out. Okay. So God is saying this. I will raise up the fallen tabernacle of David. What is that? Several things. Well, first of all, the tabernacle of David is the throne of David. It's the kingdom of David. Ultimately, it's Israel. Israel was fallen. It was a fallen tabernacle. But God says, in that day, I will raise up that tabernacle. I will raise up the nation, rebuild it. I will end the exile. They'll come back. I will rebuild the cities. I will rebuild the nation as it was in ancient times. And they will plant the land, which was a desert, and they will blossom, and nobody's going to take them out. Okay. That's all said. Now here's the thing. If we go back to the day that Israel was born, what day was it born? It was born on, David Ben-Gurion gets up, and we may have a picture of it. He reads the declaration of the birth of Israel. And all around the date is May 14th, 1948. It's a Friday. It's a Friday heading to the night. Israel is born at midnight, May 15th, Saturday. So that's a Sabbath.
Yes.
Sabbath. So that means that all around the world, the Jewish people are opening up their scrolls and they're chanting the ancient word that's appointed for that exact day. Could it be significant? What was appointed for the day that Israel was born into the world is this: on that day, I will raise up the fallen tabernacle of David.
Oh.
On that day, I will end their exile. On that day, so as they're proclaiming it, as Israel is born, all around the earth, from New York to Russia to Jerusalem, all around the world, they are reading and chanting the word of God. It was appointed from ages past to be read on May 14th, 1948. The God of Israel lives.
Yeah.
The God of the Bible lives.
Amen.
I will rebuild it. And actually, as I'm looking at this, and I'm looking at what David Ben-Gurion, the Declaration of Israel, the prophecy matches the words he read. It says, I will end their, David Ben-Gurion says, I will end their exile. David Ben-Gurion says, speaks about the exile, says they will come back and plant the land. The Declaration says they've come back and planted the land. Everything, it's all paralleling it, and it's not that Israel, here's the other thing. Who chose that date? I mean, who chose the date which is going to be read? Nobody who wanted it, because it was the British. They said, on this day, we're getting out. We're finished with this whole thing. We're out. May 14th, midnight, 15th, we're out of this land. They chose the date. They had no idea that it was the day of the prophecy of Israel coming back into the world.
Incredible.
Wow.
God is in charge of even that.
Yes.
Now let me let me share another mystery from the third door. One more mystery. Let's see what time we have. It's called the Jubilean Code. And that is this. When was the first time that God told Israel, you shall return? Now you shall return. Now Moses is the first one who prophesied, you shall return. God said in Moses that we read, Deuteronomy, I will bring you back. But the first time that there was a command given to Israel as a nation, you shall return, is in the command of the Jubilee. God says, each of you shall return to your ancestral land. Now that's each of us. You lost your farm, you lost this, you're returning home. But he said it to the nation in the plural. Each of you shall return to your ancestral land. You can look it up. It's Leviticus 25. That's where this whole mystery begins. Leviticus 25, each of you shall return to your ancestral land. Okay. Now in Hebrew, the way you say it, it says you shall return, in English, that's 3 words. But in Hebrew, it's just 1 word. And the word is tashavu. Tashavu. Actually, why don't you try it? Tashavu.
Tashavu.
Tashavu. It's right there. It is the Jubilean word. It's the Jubilean command. You shall return. Tashavu. Tashavu. Okay. Now, let me, this is an amazing, mind-blowing thing. But listen, in Hebrew, first of all, you know that the Jewish year is different from the Western year. Today, in the Israel, it's not 2019, it's 5,000, because the rabbis counted from what they saw as the beginning, so it's almost 6,000 years on. So there's a different date. Well, how do you write a Hebrew word? A Hebrew year? Well, you write it using letters. That's how you write the Hebrew word. This is not some mystical thing. This is how you write a Hebrew year. You use letters. Because each Hebrew letter has a numerical value. So that's how you write it. Aleph, A is 1, Bet is 2, and then 1 becomes tens and hundreds and all that, okay? So that's why. So you write Hebrew words simply by putting Hebrew letters together. That's it. Okay. Okay, so now, Moses, this is 3,500 years ago. The first command God ever gave them, it's been there all the time, you shall return to your ancestral land. It's made up of, Tashavu is made up of 4 Hebrew letters. You don't have to know it, but it's Tav, Shin, Vet, and Vav. Tav is 400, Shin is 300, Vet is 2, and Vav is 6. When you put them together, it comes up with a number, and the number indicates the year 1948.
Oh my goodness.
Wow.
You shall return 1948. You shall return to your ancestral land 1948. This is there. This is there from the beginning. It's there in Leviticus. From the beginning, giving the year of the return by the word return. The word return means 1948. So,
It's mind-blowing. It really is.
it is mind-blowing. And the thing is, not only that, there's another quirk here because when you write Tashavu later on in the Bible and even today, it has an extra vav. Now if it had that other vav, it wouldn't add up to 1948. But in Leviticus, it doesn't have that. The letter is gone. So it will come to that exact year. Interesting, because one other thing about Hebrew dates, when they write Hebrew dates with letters, they usually leave either one letter out or one letter separate that represents the millennium. The millennium. So in other words, you have this thing. If you get it tells you the hundreds where the date, but then you know the millennium most likely you're in. But so they either have that millennium number is either absent, missing, or separated. Okay, so the missing letter in there is the letter Vav. What millennium does it stand for? It's the number 6. It's the 6th millennium. So Israel came back 1948. It's in the 6th millennium of the Hebrew year. So it's even giving. It means that this year came 6 times, and when it gets to the 6th time, it's 1948. So it's not only telling you the time, it's telling you the exact millennium and the exact year as well. All there from the beginning. God's word, the word of God. You shall return. That's how much the Bible's the word of God.
Yes.
Wow.
You shall return.
God speaks. God. You have to do a little study, don't you?
Well,
To show yourself approved.
It's all there, and there's so much that happens here, and we're gonna the next time we're gonna move to another one, but which is gonna take it into the lives of many people here. That many of us. I was alive at the time of the next door, but in this one also in this door, and we'll do another time, but is the mystery of the American president, where we touched on it, Harry Truman. There's so much there. There's also a mystery of a man who was in ancient times, and God, in a sense, resurrected this man in a sense to link with Israel. There's a mystery of ancient scrolls that were hidden for 2,000 years to be uncovered on the exact day linked to Israel coming back, and had a prophecy. And there's so much, but we just touched on.
Oh, that was. Well, I read that. When I read that, it's wild. It's just wow.
On the day again, and that's part of the third door. We will get the next one will be the fourth door. The fourth door is going to take us to.
We'll get to the fourth door on our next show.
Yes,
I hope.
Yeah, and we will. And it's going to the mystery of the day of the lions, the Jubilean man, the 6-day war, the Jerusalem. There's so much here, and the mystery of the man called the Nazir. But just amazing things, and we're ultimately, for those who just tuned in, we're ultimately going to get up to right where we are right now with Trump and with Trump, and we're going to go forward to what does that? That's the 5th door. The 6th door is what is yet to come.
Oh, it's so powerful. I want you to get the book now.